Testing. Good afternoon and welcome to AP European History with Mr. Bowlby. Today we'll be discussing Chapter 22, Section 2, The Revolution in Energy and Industry. We'll be using, as always, the McKay, Hill and Buckler text, 7th edition. And today we'll be specifically talking about industrialization in continental Europe. This is a pretty short one, so hang on to your seats. Continental Europe will not catch up for a very, very long time to Great Britain, and there are a lot of reasons for this. If you want to see the numbers as to when they catch up, I would instruct you to look in your text on page 736, table 22.1, and it'll kind of show you over time between 1750 and 1913 countries catching up or aggressively trying to catch up to Great Britain. Great Britain is set up for success in a lot of ways that we could arguably say are out of anyone's control. In about 1750, all countries were fairly equal in industrial output, but by 1800, Britain had clearly widened the gap. And they kept that gap widening throughout the 19th century. Belgium is going to be the leader in continental Europe. And that's something to keep in mind. While France more gradually develops on the continent. Germany lags behind continually, but as we get to the turn of the 20th century, we'll see them rapidly catching up. This is going to be a major impetus in the breakout of World War. Okay. While European countries continued to industrialize during the 19th century, most non-European countries were notably headed in the opposite direction, deindustrializing. Most notably, and ironically, considering today's climate, China and India. Japan, we will see becoming the economic superpower, militaristic superpower in the Asian sphere on the continent. There are many challenges to industrialization in continental Europe. And really, as I touched on in class, that 17 miles of English Channel that keeps Napoleon out of England during the Napoleonic Wars really, really makes a big difference because continental Europe is ravaged with the outbreak of war during and after the French Revolution on into all of Napoleon's conquests, which really eat up a lot of economic sources and manpower for that matter. It was really tough to compete with Great Britain once these things got going. They were too advanced to catch up for the next century, technologically and otherwise. Very few people possessed the knowledge that Great Britain had taken time to evolve, and it was really a specialized knowledge. Continental countries did have a few things going for them, which is what's going to help them start to turn the tide. They had a strong tradition of the putting out system, okay, mercantilism and other urban development. All of those things were a strong foundation, as they had been in Great Britain. And they could steal ideas from Great Britain. Great Britain was the guinea pig, so to speak, the trial and error master. And once secrets and technology started leaking out of Great Britain, which was ultimately inevitable, no matter how much they tried to stop it, it was going to advance more rapidly in the continental European countries. And most now had strong centralized governments that could really aid in promoting industry. And most countries, along with a strong nationalistic fervor that they were heading towards, adopted this industrialism as one of the many isms that you're going to hear coming up over the next few chapters. Agents of industrialization. This section of the text talks about agents, and there's kind of a double meaning there. A meaning somewhat like secret agents or spies, and then agents as in what factors helped move continental Europe toward industrialization. Um, there was a great recognized value in trade secrets of industrialization, and really until 1825, it was illegal for skilled workers, okay, to even leave the country. Great Britain realized the value of these things. These were very, very refined techniques, and they knew that they wanted this all to themselves. Uh, they did not even start exporting machinery that would aid other countries in developing themselves industrially until 1843. So they tried as hard as they could for as long as they could, but it was bound to happen. And there are bound to be people that are going to get out, like Cockerill. He brings industry to Belgium, who is the forerunner, as I mentioned previously, in continental Europe, and other trade secrets. Harcourt in Germany, he fails at industrializing Germany. He makes a great attempt and a run for a while, but finally, because the cost is so great, uh, he shows us an example of a couple of things. One, there is loss that can be occurred. It wasn't all feast during the Industrial Revolution. And also, he shows the difficulty of duplicating Britain, okay? Duplicating what was going on there and just how special that was and how fortunate they were. The government's role. The government aided in industrialization. Okay, tariff protection, and again, tariffs are taxes that are put on goods from other countries to make your goods look better and more favorable. There was a lot of building of roads and canals, and railroads and advanced technology. All of those things that we talked about in section 1. Another important name or another important theorist or writer is Friedrich List, and List believes that industrialization advances a nation, and believes really he creates this idea of economic nationalism. And also the Zollverein. And the Zollverein is a tariff-free zone or tariff-free zones in Germany that are meant to help to stimulate the economy. Banks also played an important role on the continent. More of a role than they did in Great Britain. There was limited liability investment, which is really a key for you here. And that was the idea that we weren't just going to take one person with a large sum of money who would suffer a major amount of loss, but it was going to be smaller investors. They could only lose what they had invested. And this was a real key in providing some stability and consistency, and also gaining confidence of the consumer. A great example of banks that's mentioned in your text is the Credit Mobilier. And other industrial banks, they mobilized in France and Germany and elsewhere to provide with and to create this system of limited liability investment that is going to further advance trade and industry on the continent.